Stop saying we must rule out no deal. It's not how it works. First of all, thank you so much to those of you who made it to the rally last Tuesday. I don't know if it made any difference to how things went inside the House. I don't know if how things went inside the House will make any difference to the way things ultimately turn out. But you got to do your bit under these circumstances, and a lot of you did, and thank you very much indeed. It was a good, fun evening. I did get a lot of video. I'm hoping to cut it together into something I can post quite soon. But while we're here, I just want to address a rather troubling notion which has sort of taken root in the big Brexit conversation, especially since the vote failed on Tuesday, and it's this: the idea that we can, and indeed must, rule out a no-deal Brexit. I will only agree to cross-party talks if you rule out a no-deal Brexit. A bunch of MPs have written a letter to Theresa May demanding that you rule out it. You can't rule out a no-deal Brexit. What you have to do is rule something else in. You see, a no-deal Brexit is what we've got, and it's what's coming on March 29th, unless, well, as far as I can see, one of two, maybe two and a half things happen. And one of those is almost certainly not going to happen. So there's basically only one thing we can do. Part of the trouble is that over the course of this whole Brexit conversation, the idea of a no-deal Brexit, just crashing out with no arrangement in place, has become perceived as something of an extreme circumstance. Because by and large, it's mainly been extreme people advocating for it. It's only been the hardest of the hard Brexiters who appear to be under the impression that this would be in any way a good idea. And actually now, as it becomes more and more likely that we are going to end up with a no-deal Brexit, you've got quite a lot of the more supposedly moderate Brexiters suddenly coming round to the idea and going on about how it won't be so bad and will be okay. And indeed some of them insisting that they've always said this, despite the fact that 2 years ago they were saying that it would be a nightmare. But you know, that's because they're all lying sacks of shit. But it's not an extreme circumstance. It's not an extreme outcome. It's not this incredibly improbable event. It's the default position, and it has been ever since we submitted the Article 50 letter. You see, after the referendum, then the decision was made to invoke Article 50, involved sending a letter to Brussels announcing our intention to withdraw from the Union. The debate raged for quite a while as to when we were going to do that. Jeremy Corbyn, you might remember, wanted it to do it the very next day, but he definitely voted Remain, folks, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But in the event, the decision was taken in March 2017, 9 months after the referendum, and as it turned out, 4 months before a general election that absolutely served no purpose whatsoever. But hey, she obviously knows what she's doing, wouldn't be Prime Minister otherwise. But once that letter went in, then the clock was ticking, and it meant we had 2 years to sort something out, because when those 2 years were up, as they will be on March 29th, that's it. Our membership expires. It's like your membership to anything else. If you stop paying your Netflix subscription, then when that month runs out, you are no longer a Netflix subscriber. And it's the same deal. Our membership of the EU, as it stands currently, expires March 29th, whether or not we've got anything else in place by then. And it's becoming increasingly unlikely that we will have anything in place by then, because that deal that went down to the biggest Commons defeat since the 1920s on Tuesday was something it took us 2 years to come up with. So it wasn't just narrowly rejected, it was basically laughed out of court. So the idea that we can now come up with something that is going to get through the House is incredibly remote. So that's the point. No deal Brexit is coming. It's what we've signed up for, unless we can save ourselves from it, and we are failing to do so. So to say we must rule out a no-deal Brexit is like jumping out of a plane and then ruling out smashing into the ground and dying. I mean, you might not smash into the ground and die, but you'll have to have something in place to ensure this, like a parachute or a really big net. But ruling out no-deal Brexit is exactly like that. And in fact, trying to rule out a no-deal Brexit now is a bit like jumping out of a plane at 30,000 feet and then ruling out smashing into the ground and dying when you've got 200 feet left to go. So you can't rule out no-deal Brexit. What you have to do is rule something else in that prevents it. You can't just say it's not going to happen. It is going to happen. You have to say what's going to happen instead. And there are basically two, or like I say, kind of 2.5 possibilities. One is that we do somehow come up with another deal between now and March 29th, which actually gets through Parliament. Now that's looking pretty damn improbable. And in order to rule out a no-deal Brexit, you'd have to guarantee it. You would have to guarantee that at some point between now and March 29th, there will be a new deal that gets through Parliament. Nobody can do that. Nobody can guarantee that. People can pledge to do their best, but nobody can promise that there will be a deal that gets through Parliament at some point in the next 2 months. So that's not a way to rule out a no-deal Brexit. The only other thing you can do is move the deadline. The only way of ruling out no-deal Brexit kicking in on March 29th is by changing March 29th. Either you've got to extend the transition period between Article 50 being invoked and membership expiring, or you've just got to revoke Article 50. Now here's the thing, of those two options, there's only one of them that we can do unilaterally. We can possibly extend the transition period, but the European Union would have to approve that, and quite frankly, just at the moment, I think they're sick of the fucking sight of us. So the only one we can do unilaterally is revoke Article 50. Which we know we can do. It's been tested in court. We know at any given time we can say to the EU, you know what, we changed our minds, we're staying in. In order to rule out no-deal Brexit, you have to cancel or at the very least postpone Brexit. Which means when Jeremy Corbyn pledges that he will rule out a no-deal Brexit, he's just basically promised to cancel or postpone Brexit. I wonder if he knows. Anyway, thanks for watching this. Do take that on board and feel free to shout it in the face of anybody who tells you that we need to rule out a no-deal Brexit. In the meantime, like I say, I'm going to try and cut together the footage from the rally. Hope to have that in some kind of postable form quite soon. Thank you.
This video was made possible by the supporters of my Patreon project, who help me make fun things while receiving great perks and rewards. If you enjoyed it, why not follow the link and join us?